everyone, my name is MC and I play the horny tiefling asshole Dominica. In this series, we'll be recapping the Dropout Wizards campaign Calamity. This recap will cover 1 to 5 episodes, so beware of spoilers, and if you're a player, get off. Now, without further ado, let's meet the party. Our story takes place on Etun, a continent that is believed to be where the planet of Acarine started. Etun is split into 11 realms. What a journey we have ahead of us! Our story begins in Vera, the realm of science and invention. Woohoo! The characters have survived 10 years of a zombie apocalypse and have found their way to the capital of Vera, Cogsmeade, in unique ways. Starting off with Caradwyn Castell, a Dampier paladin who has lived there for the past decade with her friend Illyra and their adopted kid, Colt. Aww. They make their way into the Fork Off Diner. Man, I love that name, where they meet Rita, the owner. They get food and bump into their friend Alcro, a Kenku sorcerer. Alcro has also lived in the city for the past decade, and he has been with Caradwyn on Outbreak Day. Yet, on this day, Caradwyn is on their way to a job, and Alcro decides to join them. Cut to Ryan V, two adventurers who have come to stay in Vera for a while. They have been together for the past decade. Rye, a human warlock, and V, a human cleric, are also on their way to the job. They found out about it after stopping at Fork Off and overhearing Rita mention it. Enter Dominica, who is riding into Cogsmeade on their motorcycle, almost hitting somebody who's crossing the street. And it turns out that this person is Tymeros, aka Timmy, who had just dropped his daughter Trish off at daycare. Tymeros is about to yell at Dominica, but then recognizes her. The pair met 10 years ago on the Outbreak Day, but got separated, and are excited to see each other. They also make their way to the job. I don't see any mental issues from the members so far, haha. Anyway, the group gathers in front of a tavern called the Gator House. They aren't sure if they should go inside, but are greeted by a hand coming out of a rock, and decide to follow it. Totally not weird. They follow the owner of the hand, a figure who is a member of the Scarlet Eye, a guild that has taken over Vera's government since the outbreak, down a flight of stairs into a dimly lit tavern. They are taken to the bar where they meet the person hiring them, Mako Tungsten, a changeling sorcerer and former adventurer. The group is invited on a job to help out the Scarlet Eye by defending a supply run from looters. They agree, and they all head out of the city. They follow a road until they find a rock formation and they hide among them, waiting for the looters to attack. Ooh, so sneaky. 2 supply vans come down the road and about 7 looters begin to attack from behind the rocks. They manage to take out one van, which ran over Dominica. It won't be the last time she's personally attacked by a vehicle, I promise. But the party managed to send off the other van with minor injuries. During the fight, Rye begins to notice that as they cast spells, there are opalescent crystals growing at the corners of his eyes and up his arms. That seems like an interesting medical condition. Maybe Rye should get checked out, and not by Dominica if you know what I mean. The group defeats the looters and keeps one alive. Dominica is able to identify that they came from Pyradian, and the group plans to take their looter back for questioning. Unfortunately, the fight has caused enough noise to draw the attention of the infected, so the group then had to battle them off but managed to defeat them quickly. They then return to the city and bring the looter to Aether, the leader of the Scarlet Eye. She and her assistant Laura allow the party into an interrogation room. She also tells Caradwyn to meet her later. Ooh, a secret rendezvous. The group finds out the looter's name, Jim with a Y, but we don't know where the Y is. And the party questions him. Here's a basic rundown of what they found out. Pyradian is down on its luck, so the people are running out of supplies, which is why looters came to Vera to take some forcefully back home to their people. As far as Jim knows, they are being led by a woman named Florence, and Jim is afraid to tell her secrets because if he dies, he says he won't be able to escape her. That doesn't sound suspicious. Isn't there a zombie apocalypse going on? They might be connected. We don't know. Take it up with our DM. The group takes this as Florence having some sort of power over the undead. Oh wow, who would have guessed? The group takes Jim out of the Gator House and takes him out onto the streets. Mako asks Aether what they should do with him, and she gives the kill order. Mako doesn't want to, but Caradwyn has seen the power that Aether has over Vera and kills Jim. Womp womp. The rest of the group begins to head back to the Gator House, and they all learn a bit about Mako, who gets super drunk. I have a feeling he will get along with Dominica. Mako used to sail with a crew called the Juniper, and was there to defeat the lich named Pyrrha, who caused the infected to come to Etun in the first place, and mentioned that he was responsible for orphaning a child. I wonder if that will bite him in the ass later. Such a specific fun fact about himself. The group doesn't believe that Mako was on Juniper, and calls over a barmaid to cast Lay on Hands to sober up Mako. The group decides to go back to Caradwin's house, and Timmy goes to his house to care for Trish. The party meets Caradwin's friend, Allura, a fireball woman who works as a nurse at the hospital in town, and Colt, a fireball teenager who is Caradwin's adoptive kid.
The group goes to sleep for the evening and Caradwin returns to the Gator house. Aether warns Caradwin about a secret that they are keeping in the basement of their house and says that if Florence causes anything to happen to it, they will kill the secret in the basement. Caradwin agrees, and Aether and Caradwin make a deal.
The next day, the party has some downtime. In the morning, they get a letter from Aether, inviting them to a party and to expect jobs in the future. Yay, money! Mako goes to a clay shop and begins to make a tea set for an old friend, talking with Dominika about his life. Dominika reveals that he used to live in Petwov and had 3 partners, Olga, Katya, and Alina. Olga and Alina were away from home, and Katya and Dominika were together on Outbreak Day. Katya was bitten and is still in Petwov somewhere. Dominika isn't sure where the others are. She went looking for them in Petwov a while ago with some other people, but they lost someone and had to return home. Surprisingly, Mako knows who Olga, Katya, and Alina are. They battled at Treant a few decades earlier. Mako thinks that there may be a way to get back in contact with Olga and Alina, and Dominika excitedly awaits what will come next. My poor child just wants her weed-smoking girlfriends back. If they are listening, please come home. At some point in the day, Timmy brings Trish over to the house. They discuss how Timmy met his partner and how she passed away shortly after Trish was born. During this time, Alcro heads back home to his observatory, meeting his friend, Adrian. Totally a friend. You're not kidding anybody but yourself, Alcro. Who mentions that somebody is looking at the same solstice as them in Greyhaven, another realm in Etune. The party then heads out onto the town and gets outfits for the party. Incoming fashion show! Later on, Mako goes to talk to Rai about the crystals growing on them. Rai has no idea where they're coming from, and then feels crystals grow quickly over his arms and over his eyes.
Rai is now in an archive. Long, endless rows of books surround him, and he sees a woman made of opalescent crystals. He has seen her once before, the day before when the crystals first grew on his hands. She introduces herself as Fracture and hands Rai a book that is called Aradia Draken. The person in the book shares the same last name as him, and as he opens it, he's transported to a cottage and sees a woman that looks like his mother. He sees his sword, Fracture, on the mantle as the woman, Aradia, rests him in his cradle. A shadowy figure appears at the door, grabbing the sword from the mantle and killing Aradia. The person leaves Rai in the house and walks out. Rai follows the person carrying Fracture and watches her get thrown into a log. There is a feeling of time passing as he sees himself grab the sword before being whisked back to Fracture. Fracture explains that she's been trying to reach Rai for years and finally had the chance and was afraid she would lose it. Rai agrees to help her but needs time, and says that he will contact her when he can help. Fracture agrees and lets Rai leave the archive. When Rai comes back, he has the book for Aradia Draken and is questioned by Mako. Rai quickly leaves and is followed by Dominika but manages to lose him. They return later that night to see Allura returning from the hospital.
The next day, Allura wakes Caradwin up early, telling them that the head surgeon at the hospital and Aether Nightingale have found someone who's immune to the infection, and that they're going to perform some sort of surgery to come up with a possible cure for the infection. And they need to get people to bodyguard the room. Allura advises Caradwin to be mindful of the party if they want to get that job. Caradwin is shocked at this new medical revelation, and Allura stays with them until the others wake up. The day goes by uneventfully, and the party heads to the Scarlet Eyes party that evening. When they arrive, they are announced as Mako and friends and begin to scatter around the party. Alcro, Rai, and Timmy all meet the former leader of Vera, Talador Quill, who awkwardly mentions knowing Alcro's parents, and Alcro then mentions that he was kicked out. Caradwin and V meet Lady Andromeda Bramblewood, the wife of Aether, who's just kind of an ass to Caradwin. An ass deserving of another ass. True romance there, my friends. Dominika meets Adem Claymore, the head surgeon at the hospital and a member of the Scarlet Eye. He is also here at a meeting with Aether. Dominika stays out of the meeting with Aether to try and stalk Adem, but the others head into her office. Aether's office, also called the Rose Room, is a beautiful garden, and the party is treated to a good dinner. Aether offers the party some jobs to complete to fully gain her trust. Deliver a letter to the other side of Vera, take care of some weird smells in a train tunnel, help save some soldiers from a town that was overrun by infected, and to clear out a warehouse of its infected. The party accepts, and each of them gains a badge of membership into the Scarlet Eye, a tattoo of a rose with an eye that grows an extra leaf each time they make a deal with Aether. Mako has around 15 of them, and Caradwin has 4. The group then decides on a party name, the Eyes of Etune. The rest of the party leaves the room as Mako wants to have a private conversation with Aether. He reveals that he has been infected and can already feel it taking its toll. Aether sheds tears at this revelation and gives Mako a hug.
Mako notices a bite mark on Aether's shoulder, and Aether reveals that she is immune to him. Mako, however, thinks that it represents somebody else, an unnamed woman. Aether asks if he wants to see her, and Mako says that he'll think about it. He leaves the room, and the group decides that they want to go back to Caradwin's to finish having their party there.
As they exit, Alcro's parents are announced to be at the party, and Alcro wants to leave. The party tries to sneak out, but Alcro gets caught in a conversation with his mother, Anastasia. She is a member of the Greyhaven Council and a supposed shadow sorcerer. It is implied that Alcro was kicked out of his family due to the rest of his family being necromancers, and Alcro decided to instead follow the path of lunar sorcery. He asks his mother if she knows anything about the Dancing Sky Solstice, which is a solstice he's been tracking for a few years. Alcro's mother says that she was the one in Greyhaven looking at it last night, and was here in Vera to try and discover who was watching it in Vera. She also reveals that the Dancing Sky Solstice gives the sorcerer more power than they would have normally. Alcro dismisses himself from the conversation after his mother invites him back home for dinner, and as he leaves, the rest of the party notices Alcro is being followed by a starry creature that Anastasia created to follow Alcro home. The party kills the creature and arrives back at Caradwin's place. Alcro makes a stop at his observatory, seeing his apprentices Adrian, Aster, Venriel, Adelaine, and Voltriel. He says that he'll be staying in the observatory for the night and returns back to Caradwin's home to gather his things. Timmy leaves Trish at his house with a babysitter and comes to Caradwin's place too. When Alcro returns to the observatory, he finds his apprentices dead, all killed by swords. Such a shame, they were really hot. He runs back to the party and asks them for help. They investigate the crime scene and decide to split up. Alcro, Domenica, and V stay at Alcro's place. Ryan and Caradwin climb onto a roof and try to figure out if they can see the killer. They see a person slip into an alleyway near Caradwin's house, and they see Allura standing on the porch. Ryan and Mako run off toward the alleyway, finding an infected body in it. They also find a house with a bullet through the window, but no bullet on the floor on the other side. They go running back towards Caradwin's house and notice that a set of footprints stop beside the side of their house before continuing down the street. Shit's getting intense now, I can feel it. Caradwin and Timmy return to Caradwin's house and rush Allura inside. Timmy goes upstairs to be with Colt, and Caradwin stays with Allura. The pair then hears a sound from the basement and hear a slamming sound against the door. Alcro, V, and Domenica are at Alcro's observatory when they hear the sound of a baby crying. Domenica is the only one who recognizes the crying as Trish. They run out after the sounds of the sobs and find Trish's babysitter laying dead on the ground with a bite mark and a bullet hole in her head. There is no Trish. Then they hear a scream. Oh my god. This scream came from Caradwin's house and came from behind the door. Rai and Mako run into the house. Rai tries to reason with Caradwin, but Mako is fully ready to kill whatever is behind the door. He sure kills a lot of things, doesn't he? Domenica, V, and Alcro come running back into the house. Mako gives another threat to the creature behind the door, and Caradwin steps between the basement door and Mako, saying that he will have to go through them first. The door then breaks down behind Caradwin, and behind them is an infected person who looks just like Caradwin. There is also the sound of Trish crying from the basement. Caradwin tells the others not to hurt her, and they don't. Everyone runs to the basement. They find a door that is completely broken with claw marks in it. There is writing on the walls with the same letters in Caradwin's name, sprinkles of sand across the floor, and a binky on the floor. Timmy and Domenica recognize this as Trish's binky. The party manages to knock out the infected and brings her back to the basement, mending the door and locking her back up. Caradwin reveals that the woman was her sister Anwil. She was infected on the outbreak day, and they've kept her in the basement ever since, restlessly looking for a cure. Caradwin explains that Anwil was infected when they were attacked by some vampires, and Caradwin had the vampire curse transferred to them. So they're not an edgy vampire, but very traumatized. The group is able to piece together that Florence is behind the attacks and must have kidnapped Trish. Rai tearfully goes to his room. Domenica reveals that he is immune to the party and knows people from Pyradian who may help him get an idea of where Florence is. Timmy reveals how his wife died, being infected. He promises the party that she died after Trish was born, but thinks that it may have something to do with the kidnapping. That evening, everyone splits up. Alcro and Timmy both head to bed, but Caradwin and Mako stay up and make a teacup together. Mako offers support to Caradwin and says that he's proud of them, which Caradwin appreciates. Aww, nothing could ever ruin this sweet friendship. Dominica goes outside and speaks to one of their exes in Pyradian, a warden of the Claw, a high-security prison that Florence is also a warden of. This ex is named Belladonna, and she can clearly tell Dominica is upset. Dominica asks Belladonna if she ratted him out, and Belladonna confesses that they did, but it's because Florence threatened to kill her brother. Dominica says that he understands and promises to help Belladonna when they come to Pyradian after they defeat Florence.
Rai has gone back up to his room and tries to sneak out. V catches him. Rai explains that V will be better off without him and that he needs to do something that would endanger V. V says that they need to be with Rai, and they reveal that they were separated for some years and that they were some of the worst years of their life. Rai agrees to stay with V and both of them go to bed. After they go to sleep, V has a dream about another realm in Etun called Winterfall. They are taken through a city and see a temple of the god called the Faceless One. They feel fear and then they notice a faceless figure in the snow. She has blonde hair and feathered ears. As she sees this woman, she whispers the name Mary.
And that's what happened in episodes 1 to 5 of Calamity! Episodes 1 to 5. Oh my god. And that's a lot. And yet, it is not nearly enough, so check out the streams to see in depth what happened. If you want to find out what happens next, Dropout Wizards is live on Sundays on YouTube at 5:30 p.m. EST. Hope to see you there, and remember, nothing bad ever happens to Calamity!